Hola, comrades. Today's topic of interest, Sonic. Oh wait, let me say that right. Sonic the Hedgehog. Da-da, da-da-da-da. I will openly admit that I was a huge Sonic fan when I was a kid. The Sonic Adventure series, as well as Sonic Heroes and even Sonic Chronicles: The Dark Brotherhood, were a major part of my childhood. And that's not even talking about the TV shows. Childhood me was a living, breathing example of the efficacy of corporate capitalist synergy. I saw the Pokémon TV show, then begged my mother for the main series games, the stuffed animals, the spin-off games, the action figures, the trading cards, everything. The same was true for Digimon, though to a lesser extent, as Digimon was never as big a franchise as Pokémon. And while Sonic never even had as much merch as Digimon, I got into the TV shows specifically because of the games, and the shows in turn made me more excited for the games. And yes, I mean shows, not show. There are multiple Sonic TV shows. Today we have Sonic Boom, which I hear is significantly better than the Sonic Boom games, but I haven't actually watched it. The others ended their runs over a decade ago. I watched Sonic Underground, which is weird and mediocre, The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, which is weird and bad, and two actually good shows. The simply titled Sonic the Hedgehog, also known as Sonic Sat AM because of its time slot, which is quite flawed but interesting, and which I recommend if you need a cartoon to watch, and Sonic X, which was the longest running of the shows and my personal favorite. While I don't like it as much as I did as a kid, it's quite ambitious actually, and surprisingly thoughtful to boot. It played a significant part in my development as a science fiction nerd, and to me it will always be the Sonic the Hedgehog show. What I'm saying by all this is that I was a Sonic diehard growing up, and I am thus disheartened by the identity crisis the franchise has been going through for the last decade or so. While the series is past its late 2000s nadir, and its reputation is slowly improving, it still hasn't developed a cohesive direction. It's caught between lame kitsch, overt nostalgia pandering, and genuine innovation. What's the right direction for the franchise? It's obviously not kitsch. I think we all can agree on that. The sooner the Sonic Boom franchise fades away, the better for everyone. It's the other two options that are being debated. An uncomfortably large number of fans want the spiny blue critter to go back to making the same kind of games that were classics on the Genesis 20 years ago. I can understand why that's appealing. Nostalgia for our childhoods is natural. People have these great memories of the old Genesis games, and they're disappointed by the direction the franchise has gone as they've gotten older, so they want things to return to the way they were. But nostalgia is dangerous. It can blind us to what's possible. I don't mean to discredit games like Sonic Mania and Sonic Generations, both of which are high-quality entries in the series. But as I'm listening to the fandom gush over Mania and how perfectly it replicates the feel of the old games, I'm left wondering what's next for the franchise. The way forward for a series is not to recycle what made it great in the past. Unless the series genuinely and consistently innovates, it will never move out of the 90s. It will never be more than a throwback or anachronism. The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild, the franchise's most renowned accomplishment since Ocarina of Time, came only when the franchise stopped trying to recreate its past accomplishments. Or take a look at another franchise that reinvented itself recently: Final Fantasy. FF15 isn't a major departure from series tradition, but in terms of both gameplay and pacing, it feels distinct both from its immediate predecessor, the Final Fantasy XIII trilogy, and the games made in the series' heyday in the late 90s. Even Mario and Pokémon, two very conservative series in terms of innovation, still at least have the good sense to try something somewhat new with every game. The Sonic series, conversely, seems content to nostalgia pander. Even the new game in the series, Sonic Forces, which by all accounts looks to be interesting and worthwhile, is recycling the same classic modern Sonic split from Generations. This is a shame, because for a while the Sonic franchise was one of the most innovative in gaming. It's quite obvious why this change came about, admittedly. Failed experiments like Shadow the Hedgehog, Sonic and the Black Knight, and Sonic Unleashed sank the series' reputation like a stone, causing it to oversteer a bit in the other direction. I can, however, think of one fairly recent-ish Sonic game that both did not embarrass the series and managed to push it forward: Sonic Colors. This game should not only be a model for the series, it should be a model for anyone seeking to reboot a franchise. If I had to describe Sonic Colors in just one word, it would be joyous. Playing through it, I just feel exhilarated. Remember when you were a kid, playing through an action game for the first time, and every moment left you utterly ecstatic? That's how I feel when I play Sonic Colors. Running and spin jumping through gorgeous regions in Eggman's interstellar amusement park, ranging from a stunning resort to a luscious aquarium to an entire world made of sweets, is a sumptuous experience. It reminds me of my trip to Las Vegas in the summer of 2016. When the sun went down and the lights came on, it became a man-made paradise. I remember walking the streets, entranced, traveling from one casino to the next, and it was like I was traveling between worlds. These worlds were different, yes, but they were tied together by their flair and spectacle. That's how I feel when I'm playing through Sonic Colors. It takes the rush of speed-oriented platforming from the earlier games and refines it while setting it in a technological wonderland that manages to be both slick and terrifying, the embodiment of both our hopes and our fears for the future. Now, let's turn to the heart of the game. Like many of the best Sonic games, Sonic Colors' story is not dense. These aren't Final Fantasy games after all, and they are certainly not Xenoblade Chronicles with its 100+ hour story. Eggman opens this admittedly awe-inspiring amusement park, purportedly to make amends for his past affronts, but in reality to collect energy from the Wisps in another of his master evil plans. But I wouldn't go so far as to call this an excuse plot. An excuse plot, to me, isn't just a light plot. It's a plot that doesn't justify its own existence, and it's hard to say that about Colors' story. There aren't a lot of cutscenes, but those we do get are sometimes heartwarming, often funny, and always flush with enjoyable character interactions.
And wreck that plan, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much how we spend our time.
23, 24, 25... Ah, not nearly enough aliens!
Want us to get more?
No, I want you to get me a cheeseburger and a shake.
That'll be easier. Cheeseburgers don't run as fast as them little alien varmints.
Idiot, get me more aliens!
Y'all want fries with that?
Go!
I reckon that hurt a bit. Wait a minute, I need to go over yonder. Sorry.
Precious little aliens! I'll harness their hyper-go-on power, and then nothing will stop me. I know I say that every time, but this time, really, nothing will stop me.
Boss?
What? Sonic!
Who you calling nothing?
Huh? He means since the boss said nothing will stop me, and Sonic here is going to stop him, it's like the boss was calling Sonic nothing.
Great! I thought nobody would get that.
The Wisps are the defining mechanic of the game, these aliens who imbue Sonic with power-ups. In the mid to late 2000s, Sonic suffered through many embarrassing gimmicks, including a werehog transformation and an actual sword. But the Wisps aren't a gimmick. They're integrated well into the game, which is probably because the system is lifted pretty blatantly from the tried and true power-up systems of the 3D Mario games. In fact, the whole game reminds me a lot of Mario Galaxy, but that's not a bad thing. I love Mario Galaxy. And the Wisps are actually more entertaining to use than many Mario power-ups, and the fact that they're living creatures that tie into the plot, and not just random flowers and leaves that give you power for no adequately explained reason, is a boon. So what lessons should the Sonic series and anyone who wants to reboot a franchise learn from Sonic Colors? There are 3. First, Do not be afraid to experiment, but make sure that you experiment in ways that make sense, meaning you shouldn't break from the core dynamic of your series willy-nilly, but don't stay in stasis. Second, have a distinct vision for your project. Sonic Colors advertises exactly what it is from the opening sequence. An enjoyable, lighthearted, visually spectacular, Disney World-esque romp. Finally, don't give in to the two groups of people pushing you in opposite directions. On one side, you have the die-hard traditionalists who want nothing to ever change, and on the other, you have the corporate flunkies who want you to cop to the latest trends, which for the last decade or so has meant dark and gritty. Go your own way, and your odds of making a successful franchise reboot improve spectacularly. Learn from the past, but don't copy it. When Sonic Colors hit it big, I was waiting for a sequel, but that never happened, and the series went in a different direction. I used to be bitter about that. I'm not anymore. But if the series is to reclaim anything close to its former spot in the sun, it needs to take the lessons of that game and apply them to its future endeavors. Rolling around at the speed of sound. Got no place to go, gotta follow my rainbow. Can't keep around, can't stick around, have to keep moving on. Got no walls, directions, only one thing to do. Can I just say that Sonic has some of the catchiest tunes in gaming? There's Escape from the City, which I was badly singing, the Sonic Heroes theme, 7 Rings in Hand, and so many more. Reach for the Stars, the theme song for this game, is pretty dang fantastic, especially during a playthrough, and the orchestral pieces aren't slouches either, hence their inclusion in this video. My favorite is the Act 1 music for Aquarium Park, though the Planet Wisp map screen comes in a close second. The music emphasizes the surreal, energetic, hyper-futuristic feel of the game. Anyway, if you liked what you saw today, consider donating to my Patreon so I can produce even more exciting content. Also, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that superb stuff. Adios, comrades!